Okay.
Just
It
little
should
things,
be
yeah.
recording now. Great. Um, so okay, so yeah, and so each of you will have one or two sheets that you'll find in the scanner output file every week. This is my cat. Um, and and so based on your findings, sometimes you'll need to go into the important changes document and to like, so if you find a change, this is all in the train document, but if you find a change, you think it's important, you'll also then add it to the important changes document and the one that we're currently working with. This is just in the main website monitoring team folder. The one that we're currently working with is here, the important changes revised, and we started it last August. And it's still going. And the other things are if you ever want to start writing a report or kind of see some pattern in what you're finding, and you would typically start a notes document, and all of the kind of like notes or leads or like kind of reports that are in process are all in this folder here. And then, of course, your analyst sheets. This is all in the training document, but is the other kind of key place you'd look at this in this folder. And these are your personal sheets that you, when you open your scanner output, you'll copy the information into your sheets, and start and do your kind of analyst work in your personal sheet. Yeah, so those are the main ones that you'd be of interest. And then also where to find our meeting notes for all of our meetings are back if you go up a level into just the website monitoring folder. And then the meeting notes for all the teams are in this folder. And you can find the analyst team meetings are the Wednesday meetings. And then if either of you are interested in the research group that meets on Mondays, although I think we need to change the meeting time because Eric can't make that anymore. But all those meeting notes are here, and the report writing team that meets on every other Friday, the meeting notes are out of here. Okay, so that's just like a quick overview to the Google Drive. Good idea for recording this because it's just kind of like blah. Okay, so the instructions though. So okay, great. So I think you're both in it. And this basically will walk you through what you'll need access to, the different nomenclature that we use for things, and then the process of doing your monitoring. And so I think I'll start actually with the process of doing your monitoring because you can read the other parts. So basically what you'll do every week is you'll go to the scanner output, which is in web monitoring team, scanner output. Alejandro, since you said you were interested in water issues, I am assigning you to the water, the EPA water sheet. And Elise, I was thinking that since somebody's already monitoring the climate one, I was thinking that two smaller ones that might be of interest to you are the EPA International, and the EPA like About, which is kind of a kind of catch-all for a lot of like policy pages.
That sounds good.
Awesome. So you'll go to your scanner output, and then if we open up let's go to water. So Alejandro, you'd open this sheet.
So open it in the Google Drive environment, or download it. Which you say?
I usually would open it with
Google Sheets.
with a Google Sheet. Yeah.
Okay.
But really, any which way it doesn't really matter. either way. It's easy to copy and paste directly from one sheet into another sheet. So I figure that's usually what I do. And what this output is all of the URLs that have been assigned to this kind of like subdomain of EPA-water. And these are all the different URLs that have had any changes in their HTML in the last week. And so there are a ton. And we used to basically not have any way of differentiating if anything is important or not. And as you can see, like, going through 187 changes could take some time. It feels very needle in a haystacky. But mostly Rob has developed some really useful tools to help us kind of differentiate what is an important change from not. All the ones we think might be important need human eyes because a lot of them kind of still aren't. But we've got some good tools to like help us figure this out. So the first thing I do is I scroll. I don't even kind of bother so much looking at like even what the page name is or anything like that yet. I scroll all the way over to look at this section here. And this information tells us this is basically a randomly assigned number for any unique difference between HTMLs of one page version versus another. And it'll calculate I'm not sure exactly what the metrics are for this, but this is the difference, kind of like the difference in the HTML code. This is for any specific text differences. This is actually the one that I usually look at more. And this tells you the number of characters that are different between the two different versions. And then this tells you the number of versions that have, of this page that have been downloaded in the week. So sometimes a page might change every day and we'd have like 6 or 7 different versions. And sometimes there's just one change in a week, and so it's just the one version. This is helpful because sometimes you could miss a big change if the change that it's like preset for you to look at in this in this column, there's like a preset change, like 2 different dates that are being viewed. And if you don't kind of click through them, you could miss a big change if the one that happens to be populated there isn't the biggest change for that week. Then this is the priority value, which is an algorithm that Rob built that tells us about the nature of the change. And basically, any changes that are below 0.1, so any of these down here, starting at line 44, are only HTML changes. And so those ones we don't even bother looking at because they're, just like web infrastructure or like maintenance stuff. A lot of the ones down in the like 1.6, 1.7 range are like either like that's usually a little bit higher than what we'd see for like a date stamp change, but these ones you can see are all the same. They're all 60 characters different, and they have similar priority values. So what this is actually like the same change that's occurred across a ton of pages. So usually for these, you only have to look at one to kind of see what that change is and then move along. The reason the priority is different is because the priority value takes into account the length of the page. And so like it takes into account all of the text on the page and it tells you about the proportion of text that has changed. It's not a direct like 17% of the page has changed. It's more complex than that. But it does tell you about if you see like the majority of the text change on a page, you'll be up in the 0.6s, 0.7s. It also takes into account if any links change and actually weights those higher. So a page that has like all of its linked change would be like 0.9. But anytime there's any link change, it's at least a 0.2. So what this tells us, because it's below 0.2, is that there are no link changes, and there's a small amount of text change, which we can also see reflected by a 60-character text difference.
How are these rows sorted? What makes it row 1 down?
By priority value. It might be
because it's not
directly. You're right. That's so interesting. It used to be by priority value.
Because I spotted
sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, I spotted at the bottom of all the ones which are text diff length 60, there's one which was like 600, and it was a similar priority, 650. So my other question was going to be, why is that one ranked similar? Does text length usually bring it up, or?
Yeah, text length would usually bring it up. Let's go look at it.
So I'm just curious about that, and then what ranks them top down, because at the moment it's not.
Yeah, the general top down is like the more important, the ones with higher priorities that are at the top. But you're right, it's not exact, and I don't know why it's not exact. It's possible that it's what was recently changed, is it used to be the priority value for the specific change that's that's viewed in this column, in column I, but now it takes into account any of it uses the priority of any of the changes that occurred in the week. So like this 0.1817 might be related to the change that's viewed in column I, but it also might be a different page it might be the comparison of a different page version that happened earlier in the week, and so it might be. So I think it's probably related to that, but I don't know why it's not 100%.
We sort it down before we're beginning work on it.
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, whatever makes it easiest for you, and that is funny. That's not like that, but yeah, that makes total sense to just sort by column R.
Also, I'm not sure if you mentioned it or if I didn't catch it. So for the different number of versions, if we want to look at all of them, where do we what was the place where you actually found the first, second, and third, or?
So that is a great question, and let's see. Let's just look at one. So this is row 7 is the one that had 3 versions in the week, and we can click on it. And this is the scanner interface. Oops. Okay. So this one, there, great. Okay. So this one shows us June 12th to June 16th. June 12th versus June 16th. This week covers June 11th to 18th. So first we'll look at the first one that pops up, and on this left hand side is the older version, which shows you here, and anything that was removed should be highlighted in red. So I'm not seeing anything removed yet. This is the newer version. Anything that's added should be highlighted in green. Okay, so I didn't see any text changes there. Oh no, that's so funny. Why would it say there were 3 changes when I suppose maybe the 11th wasn't captured in the last week's? Oh, it's 3 versions, not 3 changes. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, back over here. Yeah, number of versions, not number of changes. Okay, so there was only one. There were 3 versions that occurred during this week, which I guess are the 11th, 12th, and 16th. So if we wanted to look at what happened during this week that hasn't been captured before, we could go back to the June one, which was the June 6th one, which was prior to this week, and then go through and look at what happened on the 11th, the 12th, or the 16th. Chances are nothing important would have like popped up and then gone away in this, like, within a week. If it's actually important, it probably would have stayed. And so I usually go to the most recent, and so now we can compare across the last version that we had seen in a previous scanner output file, and to the latest version now. And this is probably the one where this higher priority value popped up. I do want to see the thumbnails actually. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we're seeing that these little like highlights were removed, and I think these are linked. Yeah, and these are links also. So you can, when you run your cursor over it, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the link address for where that goes. So that link and this one, the text and the links were removed. Then this, so then the proposed rule for the new rule, so the final rule from 2017, that was removed, and a link to the proposed rule for that's proposed in June 2019 is added. And see what else. Oh, and they moved this bullet point of having the 2019 methods update rule, and you can see the link address at that bottom left-hand corner. That's been moved into this kind of like highlighted box up here, and it's the same link though. Anything else? And then just the date stamp change.
So how do we decide if that's an important or significant change or not?
That is the biggest question of all of it. So generally, I try to think of things from like an information sharing standpoint, and like, has any information that used to be available is no longer available? Is any information like portrayed in a different way, or is any new information like now available that didn't used to be? And for this one, I would want to read through the kind of look on the more recent version to see, is it easy to find the existing rule that was finalized in 2017, or is it only easy to find the proposed new rule? And if it's hard to find what's still in existence, then I think that I would give that kind of like a on the low end of an important change. It's very subjective, especially the like, I'll show you the analyst sheet, or the analyst sheets, but like you kind of can rank them like high, medium, low. That's like the most objective thing that we do. But I would put this kind of maybe at the low end of an important change. But I do think that because if we can't find these 2 pieces of information that used to be like so important that they were like in the highlighted box, if they're no longer found on the page, then I think that constitutes an important change. But like nothing that we're going to like spend the time to like write a whole report about. But I think it's like it was worth like cataloging. Should we go through what the categorization looks like?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so let's actually we could do why don't we use that change. Let's make each of you a analyst sheet. Oops, too far. Come on, scroll. Oops. Sorry, guys.
I think that was an interesting example because I like what you said about is the access to the old rules, given that it's only proposed rule the thing. I would also be curious about what is the new rule, what's the old rule, what changes have happened within the rule itself, and then not knowing that much about methods of, you know.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things that like actually are the most interest to me, and like what we've written a few public comments about, because when it's like even if you give like a link to the new proposed rule, which is like 84 pages, and like if you don't give any information about like how these two rules compare, you're not really giving the public the opportunity to make much of an informed, opinion about whether or not they think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so to make an analyst sheet, we go to the analyst sheet template. Let me just make sure that I updated it with the that new having a new number of versions is pretty new. I want to make sure that I think it's in the way. Yeah. Okay. I'm actually going to change that to versions. Okay. So we'll make a copy and name it I still don't know how to do the E with the accent. How do you do that?
It's the Alt-ger, so the right Alt-ger and the letter E.
I only have an Alt, not an Alt-ger.
Is it a Mac?
No, it's a PC.
Try Alt and then the letters 130 on the number pad. Otherwise, just an E is fine. That's
okay. Alt 130.
Yeah, just go for the E. It's probably keyboard differences.
Well, and you can change it because this is all shared access. Okay, so there's Elise's and we'll make Alejandro's as well. Okay. Okay, great. So now you each have an analyst sheet. Because this is one from the domain that Alejandro will monitor, what we'll do is we'll do it in your analyst sheet. Okay, so we'll grab this and go to Alejandra's analyst sheet and paste it in. And then after Okay, so everything up through column R was just grabbed from the other sheet. And then this is where where your classification comes in. And so who found this? You type your name. And then we can come back to this one if we want, the like low, medium, high, totally subjective, the most subjective piece in this. But so let's come back to that column. From column U to W talks about the kind of the type of change that we're seeing. If it's a language change, a content change, or a link change, or any combination of them. And then the next chunk talks about the kind of the scale of the change. So for this one, where we saw the text and like basically like just 2 links removed, I would say it's not a language change. Another way to say like language change versus content change versus link change. Link change is pretty clear. Like, was there a link removed? Language change versus content change is more, column U for language change is about like how you say it, and V is like what you say. And so I would say that there was not a language change. I also would say that there wasn't like content change necessarily. There was no like kind of descriptive paragraph or like kind of I mean, I guess this one could be iffy because in some ways just having a link to the final rule from 2017 is content saying there already is an existing rule that was finalized in 2017, and now that piece of information is gone. So I think this could be either way for content, if we think of that as content or not. Do you guys? And yeah, you'll just kind of develop a feel for like how. One of the reasons we have it written down like who found this is because there's like, you know, people. There are a lot of issues or areas where it's kind of like, well, it could be this or it could not be, and so people kind of develop their own sense of whether or not they will include that in their, you know, what their standard for saying it's content change or not. Anyway, so that's. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? Do you think of that link removal as also a content change?
Yeah.
I thought at the beginning, and then I thought, well, if it's a link change anyway, then why is it also a content change? Because a link change implies that piece of content changing within the link. So I was like, then it's not both; it's just the link. But I can see it both ways.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. Sometimes link changes are like very subtle. You know, it's like a link hidden in a menu, like kind of, or like, you know, in a long list of like 8 links, one of them will be removed or something. And this one's kind of like front and center.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah. Could go either way. Alejandro, it's your sheet. So we're going to follow what you think. And it's definitely link change. Okay. So the change scale, this is also kind of to give a sense of like how dramatically a page has changed, or a site has changed. So here, column X, repeated change across many pages or a domain, is generally like a menu change or like a navigation bar change, or things like if EPA adds a banner, like when the government when there was the government shutdown in the beginning of the year, they added banners across like their entire website. And so, and it was an important change, and like didn't need to be discussed like 30,000 times. So, so if it's a repeated change, we'll just do it. We'll just like include it once, and then move on. This one, we don't have any evidence that it was repeated, and it's unlikely to be repeated because it's kind of in the body of the page. So I'll say you can either put zeros or leave it blank, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So the next one was the alteration within a single section of a web page. And for this one, we only have changes within that one, because date stamps we don't worry about.
So I guess it's within so we're looking for the number of sections that saw an alteration, or just the you know what I mean? Like I'm a bit confused about this one.
Sorry, yeah, this is all of these are. The data will just be 1 or 0, so it's not like the number of sections. But it's this is getting at like this one. So like you'd never have a 1 in Y and Z, because this is asking is the alteration within a single section of a web page, or you know is okay. Actually, wait. You could have a Y and a Z, but you could not have an AA. Sorry. So this is asking, is the alteration within a section? Is the alteration changing an entire section? Or is the alteration like spanning, you know, like multiple sections and kind of like large, to the, that's actually a little bit different. Maybe I've been thinking of this a little bit differently from what the words are of this says a whole web page. This is like a whole section of a web page, but not about like if there are multiple sections. Yes, I guess, I'm sorry.
Looking at it with completely new eyes, it looks like to me you have to pick one of Y, Z, AA, or AB. Is it within a section? Is it a whole section? Is it a whole page? Or is it a whole website?
Mm-hmm.
Or data set?
Yeah, and that actually is the goal, is to kind of is to be able to simplify it down along that. So yeah.
So this would sit between kind of Y and Z, because it was kind of within that section, but it kind of is that section.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Alejandro?
You know, I would say just, why. Yeah, I mean, the alteration. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really like changing I would say the sort of, I don't know how to put it, the structure of the website or how someone would approach it. And although I did want to ask, so if we're representing changes, and plural, meaning multiple changes to within the single website, and so one change might, let's say, remove, let's say, a document, but another one seems to just simply alter an entire section, then you could have, like a affirmative value for both of those changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But those would show up as two. We'd put those in different rows.
Okay. Yeah.
They'd show up as separate. As separate changes.
Okay, so you want a row for every for change, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I think for this one, I would lean towards why, because sort of like similar reasons for Alejandro that there's still like the highlighted, like the kind of highlighted box, um, and even the one that where it was where this one was this little highlighted box where that one was removed. Um, I there's still the kind of like main highlighted box and like the secondary highlighted box with the same kind of um, same kind of red to blue graphic. Apparently, titration is a big thing, and yeah, the section seems still intact. Um, um, yeah, that would be my thought.
Yeah, seeing it again, totally agree.
Okay, so and then so we can put zeros here. Oops. We've only seen a couple of instances of an overhaul of an entire website, but there have been them. But you'll probably won't see many changes of that scale. And then we actually have never seen the removal of a data set. We thought we saw one once, and it was like a server outage, and it came back online. But yeah, luckily we've not seen wholesale removal of data sets. So nothing there. So we've done kind of change type and change scale. This is asking, so we kind of the kind of two types of changes we've type is a tricky word, huh? The two like kind of domains of change we've seen are content change and access change. So content being like what's being discussed on the page, how it's being said, like that is different. Access being like the removal of a website, the removal of a web page, making information harder to find. And a lot of times it's both. And so this drop down kind of asks you, is this primarily a content change or primarily an increase in access? Like, suddenly we have a bunch of new links to something, or is this primarily a decrease in access, or is it a combination of a content change and an access increase or decrease? With the link removal to the frequently asked questions and the final rule, what do you guys think in terms of, is this a content change, access change, or a combination?
I reckon a combo, because the rules available have changed, and then it's removed two of the links and added a new one, so access has both been decreased and increased.
Yeah, and if earlier on we're gonna say that let's say both a link and the content was changed, and here it would be kind of inconsistent to not sort of reflect that in our metrics. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true enough. I would agree. And I think that primarily it's so the content change and an access decrease, since these two are removed, and this one is actually just moved. So I think I'd say a content change and an access decrease. But often, like, also there are ones where it's like these links are added, these are removed, but this is just kind of getting a sense of like, is it what is it primarily? This is kind of for for our own internal kind of like sorting of changes. It's actually, I mean, all of this is mostly used internally for kind of like either developing reports or looking for kind of patterns. And we can put a brief description. Okay, my cat is in the way for typing. Hi, sweetie. She says petting is more important than typing. Okay. I would just say something like links to final 2017 rule and an FAQ removed, proposed 2019 rule highlighted. Just whatever, something so that somebody that can both cue your memory and that somebody else could like see this and kind of get the gist of what happened without having to actually go into Scanner and look. And once we're done categorizing, we'll copy and paste this whole row into the important changes doc. Anything that we think is important enough to spend time categorizing, we then add to the important changes doc. And I use these a lot of times if I'm looking for a certain topic, I'll just search the whole spreadsheet for some keywords that would like cue me that it's related to that topic. And so you know, sometimes I'll, so that can be kind of good to, if it's relevant, some like keywords could be good to include here. But I don't think there's any like any keywords related to this change, I think are also in the page name, if I noted that. Yeah, Clean Water Act analytical methods. It is specifically about that. So like we'd already be clued into this row if we were searching for like water analytic, like method, like any of those things, we'd already be clued into this row.
Which link was it that you used to find on Scanner? Was it column I, the side-by-side one? That's the one that you clicked to check. Okay, cool. Thanks. Sorry.
No. Yeah. Yeah, we could use the others. This one shows not a, I think doesn't show it. Oh, that's actually the same link, isn't it? Before we moved everything onto Scanner, and when we were still using a third party called Versionista, the columns H and I were different because they had a page view URL that was just that page, but not compared to anything. But since the only view in Scanner is a comparison view, then H and I are now the same, which makes sense. And then the latest to base compares the very first version of that page that we monitored. So a lot of them will be like kind of December 2016 or January 2017 to the most recent of that page. And so that's helpful to get a sense of like how much has this page changed over the course of the Trump administration.
That's awesome.
Okay, and this tells you the most recent change, and so yeah, this one, the very first one that we found, the date found for the base was the 6th of January 2017. Okay, so now we're into topics, the topics of the change, and this is to get a sense of like kind of are there certain topics that are changing more than others across federal agencies? And so we've broken them down into like primary topics And we have you can choose up to 3 primary topics, which is called AF, AI, and AL. You don't have to assign 3 different topics to it because a lot of times like that's just not relevant, but sometimes there are complex changes that do relate to a lot of different topics. And then you can have two subtopics to kind of further define each of your primary topics. And so for the topics, we've got a dozen topics: climate, weather, environment, energy, agriculture, economy, governance, relations. You can read this list. So for this one, first I should say, so you have this dozen topics, and then once you choose one, then you'll go over to the subtopics, and like say you had chosen climate, which we would not choose for this particular instance, but if we had, you could then further define, kind of further say like, well, it was specifically around climate science that this change occurred. Or if you had chosen environment, you could say, and specifically it's about, water policy within the environment. Or, if it had been about education, specifically it was like, a children's educational page change, or that sort of thing. So all of these topics and subtopics have come out of things that we found and things that in ways that would be useful for kind of further defining them. And these, there's a document that's linked in the instructions that kind of explains these different topics more. For this one, which topic do you think it most relates to?
Could we see the page again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do regulations fall under governance? Is that what that topic is there for?
It's one of them. Although actually, come on. Yeah, laws and regulations is one.
So either that one or the environment water policy one.
Or both.
Oh, because you can have multiple. Got it.
But those are the exact 2 that I think are.
Yeah, I agree.
And it really doesn't matter which one you say is topic 1 versus topic 2. If they're relevant enough to this change, they're both. Yeah. Which one would you like to choose for topic 1?
Yeah, environment. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And water policy. These are color coded so that you make sure that you choose a subtopic that does further define your primary topic. Because you could also say like, it's the environment and it's about non-point source pollution. But that actually, wow, that does not look as different as I had hoped. That's supposed to be 2 different colors. But yeah, so it's a little confusing.
There's only so many shades of green when you're green.
Right. And I tried to make them like sort of relate. So I was like, oh, climate, it's getting hotter, red. But yeah, so that is the color coding is so that you kind of like if it's mismatched, you'll notice. Okay, and topic 2, governance and regulations. Great. Is there any other topic you think might fit? And again, it doesn't have to.
I haven't like looked through all the subtopics, but I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I'd need to look at the page a bit closer, but those were the ones that sprang to mind, especially related to those changes.
Yeah, perfect. That I totally agree. That's exactly what I would choose. And so these last 3 columns are there any keywords that you noticed in this change? This one I don't think is relevant for this change, but some changes we've seen were like we saw one page where actually several pages where the word carbon was removed like systematically and the word sustainability was added systematically. And so for those changes, it was like, yeah, we should really be paying attention to the words carbon and sustainability because they were like kind of wholesale added and removed. And that can inform like other projects like the term analysis paper that we've been working on. I don't think that's relevant for this particular change. This column is for any further notes. Like sometimes if the description doesn't quite explain why it's like relevant, or if there are like any other, this is just kind of for you. Like, are there any other changes you've noticed that were similar and you want to like make note of like, let's start compiling those in a notes document or, something like that. But this is just kind of like for your benefit. And then the final column is if there are other groups within EDGI that like should be aware of this change and maybe like some kind of, is this fodder for like a collaborative report or something like that. And so those are the other kind of main working groups.
It could be good to maybe go off and do some of these on the sites that you give us and then go back and think about it, because I wouldn't know what to recommend there, but maybe if we do some and then reconvene with first efforts and get on the right tracks of what is important, how we highlighted it, and then where you might have said actually that one you'd want to tell others or not.
Yeah, totally. That one and like the low, medium, high are all kind of like got to have your feet wet to and know like what other working groups are working on and interested in. Like interviewing is really interested in children's health right now. Like, and like, like we need to know that, like to know that a change about children's health is relevant to this other group. And yeah, so okay, so once we do that, we're almost done. We go to the important changes doc, which is in website monitoring team. Important changes. And then you'll grab your row, copy it, oops, and then just paste it in. Don't know why I did that. Okay. And just paste it in. And then you're done. And then you go back to the, and then you go back to your next one. For this sheet, Alejandro, I would do definitely these first 6, and then take a look at like one of these ones that with the 60. And you could even spot check to see like, okay, well, is this one also the same? But generally they are. So don't spend time looking at all of them. Maybe see what's going on with this one. It's quite possible there was just like a hiccup in the algorithm. And then for any of the ones that are just HTML, like don't bother looking. So yeah.
And once you've worked on it, do you remove them then from this? So how does this get refreshed, or how do you keep track of which ones you've looked at? Do you mark it in an extra column, or how does that work?
So what most people do is they'll, for all the ones they look at, whether or not they decide to further categorize them, they'll copy and paste those into their analyst sheets. So, but any of these ones that, that you could like, copy the whole thing into your analyst sheet. Once you're like, I've looked at one of these 60s, I know that they're all the same. If you want to, or you don't have to. That is just to keep track for yourself of which one you've done. And most people they kind of like go week by week. And sometimes if they're like, oh, I missed a week, that's totally fine. And it's, noticeable in their, they'll note it in their analyst sheet of like, I didn't have anything that I viewed from this week's output. And they can go back and look at that. But for the if you're like kind of, I've got time to look at like 3 changes and then, I'm going to come back to it. But I can't remember where I left off, that kind of thing. That's why it's helpful to kind of like, paste the ones that you have looked at. One of the analysts, for him, what worked better, because it really is kind of like a personal preference. He preferred just to in this sheet itself, like not in his analyst sheet. In this sheet itself, he would he added column. He would kind of paste columns into each week's scanner output. I found that to be like actually very time consuming because it's hard to copy and paste all the drop down menus. So I didn't find that easier at all, but he did. And so he would then just like fill them out in this. But where it's relevant to the team is in the important changes box.
I think the bit that I was missing is, because there's one, how do these get refreshed then? And what I'm seeing is it's actually epa.gov water 2019-06-18. So you'll just have a file every week. So there's no fear of things getting overwritten or having to remove things or things get added. That's what,
yeah. And you can find all of them in the scanner output. Oh, you hear fussy baby. So every week on Tuesday or Wednesday, the new weeks will be added, and then periodically I'll go through and kind of move some of the earlier ones into the previous output sheet, which is an enormous folder at this point. Yeah.
Okay, so each week you'd go into that week's output, you'd find the ones that you're tracking. One option could be to copy those into your own analyst sheets. And then once you've done your analysis and pasted those into the revised changes, would you then wipe your analyst sheet or have a column to be like, I've copied these in? So you know where you've copied in and where you're adding new rows?
The most of it just like have their analyst sheet like kind of continually building. So like if we look at Marcy's,
so you just copy them over one row at a time, or would you do a bunch of work, copy over 10 rows, and then just remember which one is your starting row? Because you'll end up with quite a long document.
Yeah, I always just copy one over at a time. It's a little time consuming, but yeah, that's why I find, well, yeah, I always just copy one over at a time, I guess. But it probably is more efficient to copy them over. And if you just make a note to yourself somewhere of like these ones, or yeah, it probably is more efficient to copy over wholesale and then just only working out of one sheet as opposed to like kind of going between multiple sheets. It's good. That would be a good trick for improving the efficiency.
I might color code them pink once they're done or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, and some things, if I am kind of on the verge of whether or not I think something's important enough to categorize, I'll kind of like highlight it in yellow and come back to the ones in yellow with fresher eyes. Like if I'm tired when I'm doing it, then like I might err more on the side of like, yeah, it's not worth categorizing it. But and then if I come back to it with fresher eyes and like, oh no, okay, that one's worth it. It'll start going quickly when the topic or when the kind of categories become more like second nature of like, oh yeah, like yeah, then they can move pretty quickly. Yeah, that is the categories. Oh, I also should show you in Scanner. Sometimes another thing that's useful, in addition to being able to look through all these this history of changes, it's also useful to be able to change what you're looking at, how the comparison is visualized. So you could look at, like if you wanted to look at the HTML, you could look at this HTML and see where things, anything that's been removed is in red, added in green. And so you could, scroll through and glean things of interest in the HTML. You also, that's only useful for me if I like can't find the change. If it like says there's a text change and I can't find it, sometimes I look for it in the HTML. It's also useful to look at the links, where it highlights in red and does a minus sign for anything that's been removed, and then a plus sign in green for anything that's been added. But this is obviously alphabetical order by the text that's in the by the text of the link. But so it's a little confusing because here it looks like that first link was removed. But if you look at, so the proposed rule, the address for the link, the CWA-methods/methods update rule 2019, all the way up at the top where it used to say, the link text was 2019 methods update rule. And it looks like this was just removed, but it actually has that same address. So it's useful to look at things that are, to look at the URL in addition to just like the link text. Because remember, that one was moved, not truly removed. And then you can also look at the changes only text to kind of see in line exactly where the changes are and not see the rest of the page. So sometimes these are, useful ways of comparing things, just to make sure. This one's useful if you want to make sure that you like caught everything, and so you want it in like a small screen that you can see all at once. um, but the main the default view is the side by side rendered. So that's what, and that because that helps you see like what the page actually looks like.
Yeah, those views are really helpful. I like the changes only to maybe as a before and an after sandwich. What am I looking for? Okay, I found it. Did I get everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very,
Um,
very, very well built. That's a cool tool.
yeah, and it's like what Marcy said about Rob being an angel. Like it's mostly Rob.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some other folks. We've got a couple of other, we've got like one other really active dev person, and then we've had some others like here and there, but it's the bulk of it is Rob. I appreciate what he's done.
Yeah, that's really impressive. What's his day job?
Software developer.
Software. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're actually going to be finally able to hire him. He's devoted a lot of time and energy, and we have some funds for software development, so we're going to finally be able to hire him and get more of his time because
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's really great.
yeah.
I thought you guys already paid him. I didn't know he was only volunteer. So wow.
Yeah, I think he had he had a short contract, but yeah, 99% of it's been volunteer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks and well done, Rob. That's really great.
So if it sounds good to you guys, Alejandro, I would give you the EPA-water and like kind of maybe send you links to the most recent couple in the scanner sheet so you can like get used to seeing which one you're looking for. And Elise, the about and the international, and I can also send you links to those.
Yeah, sounds good.
If they are seem boring or you'd prefer a different one, there are plenty of domains to choose from. So
sure, no, give them a go. I just need to get feet wet. And so we need to do these by Wednesday for last week, or is there a bunch of weeks to review?
There are, but I can do a pass through, and just to see, I can do a pass through to see if there are any like really high priority ones, like in that priority column, or any with like sort of really long text diffs or something, just to see if it's worth your while to go back kind of past ones. I'll do a kind of a pass through to see, but for this most recent, for last week, yeah, it'd be great if you guys could look through those.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. And so just to clarify, you're gonna send us some of these links to us. I mean, I was just wondering, like we don't have access to all the folders. You just kind of navigate it through, right? When you were showing us where everything was.
Oh, I thought you did.
I mean, okay. So let me see if I can. I don't know if I can share my screen or not, but I just don't.
It's in the middle, in the bottom, in the middle. There's a share. It's like a rectangle with an arrow up.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see it. Yeah, I think I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me make this bigger. Yeah, that's just all I see. You know what I mean? Like I'm in website monitoring. And,
Oh.
okay, yeah. So I don't know what's going on, but.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, Elisa, have you looked at? Did you manage to actually get to the scanner sheets?
I'm just trying to get there now, and I've got the same thing as you. I've got the same folders.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I will. Let me see how to add you guys to this one. Okay, I didn't realize that it was that this particular one is not there. Okay, so is it cloud.alize or is it? Will you remind me of
Could you
what
use the Bobalize, Bobalize?
Okay, Bobalize.
Yeah, it's my older one, but it's what I use for Gmail.
Okay, and then that one's at Gmail.
Yeah. It's just what my Drive stuff is under. So
Okay.
transitioning to a new Google email address is not so easy when you've got all your stuff on another one.
Yeah. And then Alejandro, yours is long. What is it again?
I put in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. Great, thanks. Okay. Okay. You should have. I didn't realize that the website monitoring team folder had different invite, different invite than the main one. Okay, so now you should have access to all of those.
Yeah. So it looks good, right? Sheets here and yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, everything's uploading fine. I think it should be fine now, right? It's so yeah. I don't know if I have any other problems with it. I guess I'll mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything you guys want to talk about or ask?
I did want to ask. So that link you sent to us on our emails, where we had to, create our password and. Yes. Well, what was that then? I'm just. What?
That was your invite to Scanner.
Okay.
To the user interface.
So otherwise, we wouldn't the links to that Scanner interface wouldn't work. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to be logged in there for us to begin the work. Okay.
But it will, if you click on it, it'll take you to that interface. It'll ask you to log in, and then we'll show you. So.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess it's an extension of all this. I mean, would you? What are your rules of sort of dissemination with like Scanner stuff? I mean, not that I'm planning on like sharing this with anyone, but can I talk to other people like, hey, Edgy is like this cool tool that they built, and like how?
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't. We're getting closer to be able to do like a public release. The goal, I mean, it's all open access. It can be found on GitHub and stuff. But we're getting closer and closer to be able to have a public release. And we're planning on starting with like other like partner organizations. But yeah, you can definitely like tell people about it. We don't usually discuss any specific changes we've seen until they've been like kind of discussed with the team and vetted, just to make sure like with the thing with where like that data set was removed, but then it actually was just a server outage, like that sort of thing. Like we want to like vet the change before.
So don't start any rumors and all that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of funny because here at this conference, there's a number of people that work for the EPA and all that, and records managers and librarians, and so I'm just like, Hello guys. Like, I don't know.
I forgot you're at the conference. Thanks for making time during it. Is it going well?
Yeah, it's going really well. It's a lot better organized than I expected, so that was nice. And before this, like a half an hour before we started this meeting, I was just talking to the people from PEGI,
Mm-hmm.
I keep forgetting, like, the preservation of electronic government information. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That group, and they talked about sort of their work, and I said hi to them. So it was fun, and that's like one of the bazillion organizations that kind of like we have like shared goals with, and that we share goals, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I know Kelsey is going to get in touch with one of their people to when they're to ask them about if they're interested in putting up those workshops for that archiving and all that. So I don't know, it was just fun to actually get to meet these people in real life. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it is a good conference, good networking.
Christian, I just got a quick question about make sure I've got the right sheets. So I found epa.gov hyphen about. So that's the about one. And is the international one inl.gov?
No, the international one didn't have any changes this past week, so it's not in this past week's scanner output. I can find the most recent one. But yeah, it hasn't. That one's funny because sometimes it has a bunch of changes and sometimes it's pretty quiet. But I can find it would be epa.gov hyphen international. But it's there isn't any in this past week's one.
Are these sorted alphabetically?
You can if you just click name.
That's not gonna mess anything up. Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be great if maybe in the chat with Alejandro and I, if you just drop them in there, or direct chat to me, just with the names, and then I can check on the one from the most recent folder, along with the about one from this week.
Perfect. Yay, thank you.
All right, thanks for taking the time to go through it all with us.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you guys on the team. Thank you so much, and I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah. Thanks for being available on a Saturday and all that. So yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And good luck raising that child.
Thanks.
I hope the growth spurt calms down and you've got a little bit of time for the next one.
Yeah, I think we've got 2 weeks apparently they're very set, like clockwork. So I'm now looking into when they are, and I think the next one's in another 2 weeks. So.
Ready. Awesome.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.